Thousands of EU workers in the East are being given reassurances tonight. They will be allowed to live and remain in the UK, whatever happens with Brexit.
The Norfolk MP and Home Office Minister Brendon Lewis has been at an event in Great Yarmouth designed to help people understand how to get legal settlement right. Lots of people still haven't applied and say the process is flawed. Robbie West reports.
If you're an EU citizen living in the UK, you will need to apply to the EU settlement scheme.
This government video explains the new system that will allow EU citizens and their family members the right to keep living in the UK after Brexit.
It also means that the rights you currently have will be protected.
Hadrian is from France and works as a scientist in Norwich. He has been granted EU settled status, but says many of his European colleagues have left the UK, in part due to difficulties with registering.
No one's happy about it, obviously. Some people have been able to get settled status relatively straightforwardly. Others have struggled massively. Just yesterday, a colleague was telling me about his wife who tried to do it on 3 different phones and none of them worked. The app just sort of didn't work. I can understand why they've had to create it, but I really don't understand why they can't have made a few obvious minor tweaks to it that would have made it so much less stressful.
To apply for settled status, applicants need to prove their identity, show that they live in the UK and declare any criminal convictions. You can register online or use a mobile phone app that currently only works on Android phones. Over 80,000 people in the east of England have applied so far, but charities that help people register say that many people are struggling with the system.
A lot of people feel like strangers in their homes now, really, because they have to apply to stay. And this is particularly heartfelt for people who've been here, for 40, 50 years in some cases.
Visited by local MP Brendon Lewis, today the first EU settlement scheme pop-up event took place in Great Yarmouth. Maria and Paula are both from Portugal and have lived in the UK for around 20 years. They have not registered yet, but after some advice, they now feel like they know what to do.
It's more easy than I thought it would be.
I think it's very useful, this kind of events, because clarifies some issues that people sometimes cannot understand straight away.
There are currently more than 3 million UK-based EU citizens who will all have to apply for settled status. 2/3 are yet to register, and the Home Office hope that events like this one will encourage more people to apply. Robbie West, BBC Look East.
Well, earlier this afternoon I went to Great Yarmouth to ask the local MP Brendon Lewis, who's a Home Office Minister, about criticism of the scheme and about the claim in Robbie's report that many scientists have already left the country.
Well, there's been reports for a while about people, because we're leaving the European Union, taking it. I would argue it's nothing to do with the scheme. The scheme is working. We're here in Great Yarmouth today looking at how we communicate with people, showing people how easy that system is. That's worked really, really well. What I would say, though, is actually the figures prove that's simply not the case. We have had more and more people, as we saw in the immigration figures published just recently, from the EU coming to this country to work.
People are struggling with the technical difficulties that they have doing it, whether they get the app, whether they get the right phone, whatever.
Well, actually on any device, whether it's a computer or a phone, through the website, people can go through that process very easy. It's a very simple process. To put it in context for people, anybody who's a UK citizen, it's rather like renewing your passport or your driving licence. So it is a simple system. And actually one of the things we're doing is going out around the country, and we've been doing that here today in Great Yarmouth, to meet people in the community, to talk them through and show them just how simple that process is, and have more people not just aware of that, but spreading that very simple message.
Why is it then that other politicians say that it isn't working as well as it should?
Well, I'm not going to put dispersions on politicians from other parties who might want to say things aren't working. The reality is, as I say, we've got roughly just under 3.5 million people from around the EU who have made this their home. They're an important part of our community. We want them to stay. We've put in place a process that's simple and it's free, that they can do right up until at least December 2020.
Can I just ask you one other question about what's happening at Westminster at the moment? We would appear to have a here today, gone tomorrow Prime Minister, in the words of Sir Robin Day. What's it like as a politician being down there?
Well, it's fascinating times to be in politics. There's no denying that. We've seen some amazing things in Parliament this week with opposition parties who have been saying they want an election, and we gave them the chance to have an election and they voted against it. I've always said I think we as parliamentarians have a duty to get this done, and if it means we have to have a general election to restate that and be very clear and give the Prime Minister that authority and that position to go to the EU Council to get that deal, to get us out of the EU on and before the 31st of October, then that's the right thing to do. And I just think it's a shame that politicians of other parties are just playing games with this. We've got to get on with it, get it delivered.
And who will be Prime Minister come the end of this year?
We've got a Prime Minister in Boris Johnson who's very focused on this job.
So he will be Prime Minister at the end of the year?
But my desire is we leave the European Union on the 31st of October with Boris Johnson, and we go forward delivering on the police numbers we want, the investments in our health service, making our country smarter, safer and healthier.
Mr Lewis, thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thank you.